On. Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Ashu Jeffrey, and welcome to the first episode of the Healing Space podcast. The Healing Space podcast is a gentle, honest space where we promote discussions about health, not just in the theories and reports, but through the human stories which are behind them. And today's episode is inspired by something that truly stayed with me. Towards the end of last year, 2025, I came across the post by today's guest, Dr. Batuo Hillmann, where he shared that after checking his blood pressure at the beginning of 2025, he noticed it was approaching a very dangerous level. And what really shocked me wasn't really the numerical aspect of it, but the vulnerability behind it. Because more often than not, we are used to seeing doctors being the ones who heal us, the ones who treat us, the ones who guide us. Rarely do we see them as the ones sharing their own health struggles. So today's episode isn't really about hypertension, but about stress and burnout and those times where our bodies are literally telling us to stop and how important it is to listen at those key moments. So this isn't any ordinary interview, but it's a conversation, more like a story, one which I truly hope you can get the very best out of. Before we dive into that, I would like our guest, Dr. Hillman, please tell us a bit about yourself and your journey, what you do, stuff like that. Thank you.
What an introduction. Yeah, so I'm Hillmann Batuo. I believe it or not, I grew up in the same house with this human being here with your host. I'm from Cameroon, born and raised in Cameroon. Moved out of Cameroon after finishing high school, did half a year of university in Cameroon, computer science, then moved abroad to study artificial intelligence. And then at the time, the country I moved to, the Netherlands, there were no programs to study artificial intelligence. So I had to look for the next best alternative to helping me achieve the goal, which has always just been to help people. I landed on medicine. It was present in my subconscious. Everyone expected me to do medicine. Teachers expected me to become a doctor. So I just, it's self-explanatory. Doctors help people. So if I want to help people, if that's the goal, then medicine is the way to go. Seemingly was the way to go. I applied and got in, and along the way discovered, oh, okay, medicine or working in the hospital might not be what I expected or anticipated, or might not be the dream I was sold. So I decided to start carving out my own path, which partly involves medicine and partly involves my other passions and talents as well. So that's a brief introduction of myself.
Okay. We'll come back to that later. Okay, let's dive into it. Let's go back to the moment you discovered something was wrong, minus the clinical aspect of it. How did the whole experience touch you mentally and emotionally?
Good question. If I was to take myself back to that moment, I think there was some level of, it's not shame. I would not call it shame, but
Mm-hmm.
the question I ask myself is how did it happen to me? Because I have the knowledge of, okay, the family history. There's a huge prevalence of hypertension in the family,
True.
and I know people with African descent or African backgrounds are more predisposed to hypertension. And I also know theoretically the steps that you should take to prevent hypertension, because I also did research specifically on hypertension in the Netherlands amongst different ethnic populations, among which Ghanaian populations, which represent the Africans in that study. So I have the research knowledge, I have my medical knowledge, I have my own personal experience knowing my family history to some degree. So I kind of knew, and I knew prevention is the way to go when it comes to tackling hypertension. If you wait till it's too late, you're stuck with meds for the rest of your life, right? Unless you do drastic lifestyle changes. So at
True.
that point, when I checked my blood pressure and it was on the higher end, the thing that was going through my mind was just how could I, with all the knowledge I have, how could this happen to me? You know what I mean? Some part of me felt like the bare minimum I had been doing was enough to keep it away from me.
I
So
know,
at that
right?
point, I was confronted with a harsh reality. That's the best way to
Okay.
describe it.
Okay, so when you look back at it now, do you think there were any signs your body was giving you? Because obviously, your blood pressure reaching a certain point doesn't just happen overnight. You get like it's a product of past choices. So do you think over time there were certain signals that your body was giving you to be like, okay, there's need for alerts or something like that?
No, no. Simple answer is no. I mean,
Okay.
hypertension is called the silent killer for a reason, right? Hypertension doesn't have symptoms. If you're blessed, if you're lucky, you get headaches. But typically, also the headaches come up when the blood pressure is really high, high, high. Getting to like crisis level. And a lot of people who have high blood pressure don't always tick the crisis level. I'm talking like 200 plus. So if you're lucky, you have headaches. But typically, people who have a high blood pressure don't have symptoms. That's why it's called the silent killer. So I cannot really look back and say there were certain signs or things which I could have noticed to signal that, oh, my blood pressure might be higher than normal. No.
Okay, if that's the case, then what do you think was partly involved with the blood pressure spike? Like, what was your routine back then, and what about that routine do you think contributed to this?
That's the thing. I don't know. I don't know, and it's impossible to know. We just know from knowledge that there are certain factors that could have contributed to the blood pressure being high. Of
For
course,
instance,
the genetic one is a big one. The family predisposition is a big
yeah,
one. My sleep. I went to boarding school, so I'm used to sleeping less. So whether or not my sleeping less contributed to me having a higher chance, I don't know, right? My eating habits, I did eat red meat, and I know red meat is something which contributes to some degree to hypertension. So whether or not those factors, which one of them played a bigger role in causing the blood, because it wasn't a spike. It's just, I believe, over time, blood pressure increases, right? And at some point, you notice it's high, and you have to do some lifestyle changes or take meds to either slowly take it down or take it down quickly, right?
I know.
Um,
Yeah.
so it was not a spike. I think it's just maybe lifestyle combined with genetics that had led to that. But if I was to say one thing I suspect played a big role, might be sleep and just the busy nature of my life.
Okay. I can remember, funny fact, I can remember when I was talking with Auntie Matt about this episode, and I told her our topic was going to be hypertension. Then we're talking about the things that cause hypertension, and she was like, "You're talking with Hillman?" Then I was like, "Yes." Then she said, "Hillman, he's always eating out, always eating, always eating out. They just use anything and cook, and he just goes and eats." And that's surely why he was having that. And I was so, it was just so funny, honestly. But
No, but no, 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 no. But I think I do, but I don't eat out myself often. I lived in Maastricht for 6 years when I studied, and I can count the amount of times I eat out. And when I eat out, is mostly like a big meal, like an all you can eat, because I want to eat my money's worth. But if you
yeah,
ask me to recommend places in the city, I don't know because I don't eat out that much. The reason people see me online, I think I eat out, is because I do the restaurant review videos, right? Which when I go, I try to go with a few people so we share a meal, and that's once in so many weeks and stuff. So I don't eat out a lot. I think I would actually say I cook a lot. But of course, the question is, what do you cook? If you're a student and you're eating more, starchy meals, or you're just eating pasta because it's cheaper, those things still play a role. But I would not say my eating out habits contributed, because some people can hear this and think, oh, if I eat out, does that mean no, 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 no? I think it all depends on the content of the meal, right? Because if you know it's a reputable
true,
restaurant, you're careful what you eat, you can still eat out while not necessarily increasing your risk of getting high blood
true,
pressure.
true. Okay, so now that we have that sorted, um, on
All these people who are
the
eating
realization,
fufu and soup in the house, all these people are eating fufu and soup in the house, they have a higher risk than those who are going outside and eating. It's not.
I beg. Okay, so like on the on the realization that that was what was going on, take us through the step by step build up to how you got yourself back on track. Because I would like to believe now the blood pressure rating is way better, isn't it?
Hopefully. So the thing is, and that's why it has to be a constant process, right? Because how I even found out my blood pressure was high, I was at a friend's place. His dad had just been hospitalized, so I was there for the weekend, and his dad had gotten a blood pressure machine, because in the hospital his blood pressure was fluctuating, so they got a machine to check it at home. And I was like, oh, let me check mine too. I checked it and it was high. I was like, okay, maybe this is just one-time reading. You never know. You have to do like a 24-hour measurement typically to actually get the diagnosis, at least here. So I checked it there. I was not sure. It was high, but I was like, it could be one time. Went to the hospital the next day or the Monday after that when I was in the hospital. I checked it again. It was still on the higher end. So I then made an appointment with my GP to see if we can get proper diagnostics done, to check also my blood, to see if the cholesterol is high or other things are high as well. My GP gave me the machine to wear to record your blood pressure for 24 hours, which is typically how they do the diagnosis. And after doing that for like 24 hours, went back to him, was like, yeah, he's done the readings and stuff. And the blood pressure is on the higher end of normal. So it's typically it's 120 over 80. And I was somewhere around 138, 35 over 89, 90. So it's just at the verge where if you cross over like a few units more, you're in the
You now get
hypertension
dangerous.
range. Yeah.
Okay.
So knowing I have a predisposition, knowing my lifestyle, I'll rather have it on the lower end of normal than on the higher end of normal.
Okay.
Traveling recently, when I went to Thailand, China, and then Morocco, I was feeling a slight headache, the kind of headache which I would imagine people with high blood pressure could feel. So I was like, oh, could this be that my blood pressure is higher than it was? But I know last year I checked my blood pressure and I don't expect blood pressures to like spike to a critical level in such a short amount of time, right? Because typically it takes years for your blood pressure to actually develop or high blood pressure to develop, unless something sporadic happens. So I came back and I tried to like sleep more and do more stuff. And I checked my blood pressure like 2 days ago, and it's still on the higher end of normal. But again, it's
Hmm.
fluctuating between the higher end of normal and proper hypertension. But then again, it's one-time measurement. So I need to go back to my GP to see if we can measure it again for the 24 hours and see if it's gotten higher than the last time or not, and if medications have to be used while also inducing the lifestyle changes. So what I'm trying to say with this is it's a constant thing, right? Where I checked it last time and it was on the higher end of normal. And I did lifestyle changes. Maybe I relapsed on the lifestyle changes. Maybe I, started eating red meat a little more than I'm supposed to. Maybe I started sleeping less because life got busier. Where you have to constantly stay on top of these lifestyle changes. Otherwise, the chance of coming back or your blood pressure getting high again
Spiking
is
back.
very high.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's an important thing. It's going to be a constant thing, or you can just get on meds for the rest of your life, and then you also solve that problem. But I don't want to get on meds for the rest of my life, right? I'm in my late 20s, so I should not be on meds for 50 years. Those meds are also not the best thing for you.
True. So what exactly are the lifestyle changes? That's what I really want to get out of it.
Exercising more, being more active, that just goes a long way. Exercise is like an antidote to a lot of things. So exercising more, of course, checking your blood pressure and being aware of where your blood pressure is the first step to actually know where you are. Sleeping more.
Awareness.
Yeah, sleeping more is a big one. I removed red meat from my diet as much as I can. So if I'm cooking myself, I don't buy red meat.
Yeah, I noticed you went vegan sometime last year.
Yes, so I'm trying to get more on a vegetarian diet, so like predominantly vegetarian diet. I still eat chicken, I still eat um other things once in
Beef,
a while. If I go to Cameroon, I will eat
fish.
soya. So I still eat those things once in a while, but if it's up to me, if I'm buying my house, I'm leaning more towards the vegetarian side.
Okay.
Um, I said sleep, diet, salt, reducing salt, and Maggi because salt is a big contributor to hypertension or high blood pressure. So reducing the amount of salt. I typically don't cook with salt, but also Maggi has a high salt content. So replacing salt with 10 cubes of Maggi is not necessarily helping the problem, right? So also cutting down on the Maggi part because our meals in Cameroon are Maggi's everywhere, like 20 cubes
Yeah.
just open and just sprinkle. Those things
Yeah.
also contribute a role. So I don't cook with salt typically, and I limit the amount of Maggi I put in my food to a bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those are the main things I would say I've implemented in terms of lifestyle changes.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And another thing I like to ask is like, what do you think are the very minute, not very minute rather, but the hardest thing it was for you to detach from when you noticed that your blood pressure was at a certain stage? Obviously, you said you were already used to living a certain kind of lifestyle. Maybe things get busier and you have less sleep, and maybe you're just getting to go meals and stuff like that. So once that realization set in, what was the hardest reality for you to detach from? Because obviously, if you're busy, you remain busy. but it doesn't
Right.
change the fact that your blood pressure is still where it is. You get,
Right.
but
Yeah.
something must change in order for the blood pressure to go back towards a normal stage.
Right.
So, what was that one thing that you just had to remove, but it was hard to live without?
I think that's more or less still an ongoing struggle, which is if I have to sleep more, that means I have less time to do stuff during the day. And giving into the thought of that's a sacrifice that has to be made, that's difficult because we still have 24 hours in a day. So if I have to sleep 7 hours, 8 hours instead of 5, 6 hours I normally sleep, that means I get 2 hours less to do stuff which I feel like I want to do, right? So I think the biggest thing which I'm still working through is really understanding and internalizing the benefits of sleeping more. Because I think I function well with 5 hours of sleep. I function well with 6 hours. I don't need coffee. I wake up in the morning, I'm alert. I go out for a run, come back, cold shower, and I'm good to go. I have a lot of people who, if they sleep 5 hours, they wake up cranky. They need
So
coffee.
numb.
They cannot set. Their whole day is messed up. So I see there's a clear difference between the people who obviously need more sleep, like you can see it, they can feel it, and me who I can function properly with 5 hours of sleep. Maybe it's still not good for me internally, but at least
Mm-hmm.
on a performance level and productivity level, there's a clear difference between me and those people, right? So then
True.
that makes it difficult for me to accept the reality that I need to sleep more because I can see there's a clear difference between me and the people who
Yeah, yeah.
obviously need to sleep more. Because if they don't sleep more, they're actually compromised. So I think accepting that for me is a big one because if I think on the one hand that sleeping more plays a big role and just because sleep is really important, right? I know that from theory, but I also know that every human is different in their ability to in how important sleep for them and how much sleep they need to actually feel revitalized. And I do think I
True.
need less, but that's a different story. So having that knowledge theoretically and then also coming to terms with I actually need to sleep more and the sacrifices that come with that, that has been the most difficult one for me, I would say.
Yeah, I think boarding school did us bad with that one because I myself I usually tell people that I sleep at 4 a.m. and I'm up by 8, and they're like cursing me. They're like, "You're a medical student, you're supposed to know this and that." But when I wake up at 8, I literally feel as energized as someone who slept 12 hours. Rather, for me, the longer I sleep, the more tired I feel when I get up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
There's a certain
it's
threshold.
difficult. It's difficult. That's just the truth. But yeah, it's conversations like this that also help me think, okay, maybe productivity wise, I am okay, but
Mhm.
internally my body is suffering.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is still an urgent need for us to like get checked
Right.
because you may feel everything is okay because it looks so. But one thing I've learned about health within the past 18 months to be precise is that it's never as it seems.
No. And
It's never as it
if you don't check, you don't know.
for real.
If you don't check, you don't know.
For
Because I
real.
think that's something which I consider my life to be one of the biggest experiments I'm ever going to run, right? And the
Yeah.
only way to actually know what works or doesn't work for me, because it's also science gives us an average, and that's good to know at least where everyone stands on average. But at the end of the day, there's outliers, and everyone is either above average, below average, or on average, right? And I think the best way to know where you fit, because only you can find out, is to run experiments. So if I think my sleeping habits are not actually the best or are okay for me, see what happens if you sleep more or less over an extended period of time, right? Like you need, for example, sleep for like 3 months, see how you feel, see how your blood pressure reacts, see how your sugar levels react and stuff like that. Just run the experiment yourself. I think it takes a little bit of effort. It definitely takes effort. But the benefits far outweigh the efforts that you put in my opinion. But it's something which people need to decide for themselves. Oh, I want to take my health more seriously. I want to see what works best for me and optimize my functioning. And I'm going to run the experiments to get me to the knowledge I need to have by myself.
Yeah. And just to follow up on what you just said, I want to add that for those who may be listening, it's not a quick fix.
Hmm.
It's
Exactly.
not a quick fix. Like, because you may see one style of it, like the lifestyle changes, and think that, okay, by me cutting down on this or doing more exercise or sleeping more or reducing stress and this and that may get things better. But you'll notice that it may take like 6 months before things start getting better.
Right.
So I like the word you use, like it's an experiment. You try this. If it works, you see how to maybe double down on it or stay
Mhm.
on it consistently rather, and stuff like that. Like it's a constant try in order to
Mhm.
make sure that you are back on track. And I
Right.
would just like to say this, like the same time that you gave your body to like downplay certain things and your blood pressure went up,
to,
be
to
the
develop
same.
hypertension. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know, right? It should be the same time you give yourself to bring it back on track,
To
because I
recover.
don't know, many
Yeah.
people when they enter panic, they no longer think straight,
Right.
and they're like they want it now, they want it
Now.
now.
Yeah.
I have
And
that
that's
tendency, so I
that's where
understand.
that's where that's where meds come in, for example. And then people are stuck with meds for the rest of their life, right?
I see. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I have that problem myself, so I can just imagine someone who is like hypertension is scary. So
Yeah.
it's like take your time, evaluate, see what works for you, double down on it, and
But
stuff
the
like that.
funniest thing is, I think the conversation we're having as well is one where we are aware of the dangers of hypertension. We are aware of how bad it is. We are aware of the complications that come from it and
Mm-hmm.
what that can mean. But there's a lot of people, because again, hypertension does not give symptoms. So a lot of people are not aware of the dangers of hypertension. They're not aware of the dangers of blood pressure. I was in Cameroon and I measured someone's blood pressure in the family, and it was like 200 and something over 100 and something. I was like, uncle, your blood pressure is high. I was like, Master, my meds got finished and I've not had money to buy new ones. It's fine, because it's actually he's functioning properly. He cannot see that his kidneys are being damaged potentially. He cannot see that his risk of heart attacks and strokes are being increased considerably. He cannot see the internal damage that is being done because of the high blood pressure. Because from the outside, symptom wise, they're fine. And I think that's the danger with high blood pressure, which sometimes the conversation also is lacking in, is that a lot of the times people are not aware of the dangers of having high blood pressure. They're not aware of the fact that when someone dies of stroke or heart attack or kidney failure, the underlying problem might have been hypertension, which was neglected for a very long time.
Yeah, you mentioned this right now, and I just got a very unfortunate thought. As I mentioned to you about 2 days ago, a friend of mine, or rather a sister of mine, because we are that close, we had not spoken for a long time. Since after the new year, we had not spoken, and I received a message from her on Instagram, which was strange because we normally talk on WhatsApp. And she mentioned that her dad passed away, and I was like, ouch. Then normally I don't ask what happened because they are still going through all the emotional roller coasters of a father dying and stuff. But I was just like, what happened? And she mentioned blood pressure. And I remember bringing it to you in preparation for this episode, and you were like, as sad as that sounds, blood pressure isn't really what killed him,
Mm-hmm.
but the complications of blood pressure,
Right.
maybe the stroke or maybe the cardiac arrest or whatever.
Yeah,
But
exactly. We don't know. Yeah.
but I would like to really double down on this awareness stuff. Get checked, because if you're not getting checked, you don't know. As you said, it's a silent killer and it's named like that for a reason, especially
Yeah.
in Africa where it's very, very concentrated there. Get checked, get checked regularly, not just get checked regularly,
Mm-hmm.
and try to, like, you've mentioned exercise, you've mentioned sleep, you've mentioned a whole lots of things that people can do to make themselves better in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Try to do that, because I can just imagine what they could be going through right now, or anyone who is listening to this and finding themselves in that same situation. I don't know how they may be processing their thoughts now, because as I said, this is a very scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have many problems till you fall sick and you have one problem.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's
so
crazy how it works. When my blood pressure was high, that was the only thing I was focused on. How to understand what's happening here and getting this blood pressure back to normal. That was everything else seems so insignificant. It's crazy how it works. But yeah, if your health is not okay, nothing else matters.
yeah. So like what can you say for those people who like really connect with you right now and with your own side of the story? Like, because if you as a doctor are still finding it somehow hard to navigate, I can just imagine what the common man will feel like. So, what's your own take for them?
Knowledge is power. I think knowing where you stand is very empowering because it gives you the space to take charge and get your health to a better place if you actually want to get it to a better place, right? But living in ignorance, sometimes people say ignorance is bliss, but I don't think this bliss, when it comes to your health,
That's a
it's a
big lie.
bliss. I don't think this bliss is a bliss you want to have. So I would say just the starting point is find out where you stand. Check your blood pressure, check your blood sugar, because hypertension, diabetes, and obesity, those three, if you have a combination of those three, not good. And a lot of the times people, we hear, oh, this one, because apart from your friend, I think in the last 3 months, I've also heard another person who says, I lost a family member due to hypertension. And I'm just there thinking, because people never really go to do autopsies, right? People never, because it's expensive. Why would you do an
Especially in
autopsy?
Africa.
Exactly. Why would you do an autopsy if he died of hypertension? If he get high blood pressure, he had high blood pressure. So that's it. That's what killed him. But it's like we know high blood pressure doesn't kill you, right? The complications of it kills you. So it's like people never go the step to actually do, you know, the autopsies to find out what actually killed this person, because maybe that will get them also thinking, oh, that's what happens if I don't pay attention to my blood pressure, right?
Sure.
So I think that just the knowledge is power, and the knowledge of your own health and where you stand can be very empowering in just getting you to the right place, because we need that. We need that.
Makes much sense. Makes very much sense. Now let's get out of the blood pressure space. This one I'm doing it particularly for your followers. I usually used to attack you that on social media because you're someone who over the years has been able to grow a certain community online. And that community, they know, let me put it this way, they know Hillman, but they don't know Dr. Hillman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing, but who exactly is Dr. Hillman for those followers and for
Uh,
myself? Because
no, 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 but
for myself,
the follower, I
who
think
exactly
the
is
people
Dr.
who
Hillman?
know me, because I'm very big on, I would consider myself to some degree a community builder. I think
Mm-hmm.
I love the online platforms and the agency that award you to do a lot of things, right? But if anything, I'm a big believer of bringing those communities that are online to the physical world as much as you can. That's why I'm very much happy that my community I'm building is more of a local community, like the Netherlands. So people I see on the road, people I
Netherlands,
constantly run
Cameroon, stuff
into.
like that.
Yeah, I was working yesterday at a municipality I normally don't even go to often, and I went to the toilet like before heading out when I was done with my consultation, and somebody literally walked into the bathroom, looked at me. I was like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, normally at municipalities, people speak to me in Dutch because that's the language. So somebody speaking to me in English, I was like, "Oh, maybe there's somebody who recognizes me." But it was such an off space. It was like a municipality somewhere I don't live, in the bathroom somewhere. Somebody just walked in and recognized me, and then had a conversation. Realized he knows me from TikTok and Instagram and
But
stuff.
that guy,
Where these things happen often, right? Which I think I definitely highly value. The fact that I feel my community is very local, and I can do stuff. I can bring people together. I can connect people. I can, get people to go to networking events and stuff, which I think is really important because at the end of the day, we're humans and we're meant to live in the real world as opposed to this online world. But I think if you follow me and you actually have been following me for a while, you've seen the journey, right? Because I started posting content when I was in med school, and then the dilemma of med school and not doing typical hospital work, and why I decided to go another path or chase more things I was passionate about, talents that I feel like I have, which are under explored in the hospital. That journey has been something I share much about, or I just shared more about when it was the main thing I was dealing with. Of course, along the
mhm,
way, the
a
community
lot of
grows,
stuff
the
came up.
following grows and stuff, where I start focusing more on just living and sharing my experiences and journeying through life and sharing what I'm learning and stuff, where the motivations behind why I did what I did and how I got to this path kind of get lost in just everyday things, right? So I think if you've been following me for a while, you know it, but it makes sense that a lot of people who hopped on the journey along the way are not necessarily familiar with why I do what I do. But as a doctor,
True.
I do think I'm more focused on prevention, which is in line with what we've been talking about hypertension. I do think in the hospital, of course, only people who are sick go to the hospital. But I think there's a lot of work that could be done and there's a lot of benefit to be gained from preventing a lot of diseases before it gets to the point you need to cure it. Because the all the clinical systems, the hospitals are getting too cramped up. it's not a sustainable system because we keep pumping money and pumping more money into making these cures for all these things, which if we had done more to prevent stuff, maybe would have come a long way. So at this point, I'm trying to focus more on the social part of medicine, more on the policy part, organizational part. How can we do more to prevent stuff as opposed to curing stuff? That's on the one hand. And on the other hand, I'm trying to just tell more stories, get better at storytelling, doing things that I find interesting, public speaking, traveling, connecting with people, different cultures. At some point, I believe those two things are going to combine. At some point, I believe all the pieces of the puzzle are going to fall together. But until then, I keep working on the individual pieces of those puzzle.
Sad enough, we have come to the end of this. Sad enough. So yeah, thank you very much, first of all, for your time. I know it's because money to have a meeting with you these days, but
A lot of money, a lot of money. I'll send
yeah.
you.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your experience. Like for me, I always tell people that vulnerability is a very high currency in my book. And for you to come on here and share a story that really connects with you in this way, it means a lot. And you doing it on my platform means even more. So thank you for that. Also, thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for everything. And yeah,
Thank you for having me.
if you
Thank you for having me.
thank you very much, Lee.
Yeah.
So yes, we are done. See you guys next time. Thank you very much.
Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share with your family members, share with your brothers.
I know, right?
Share with everybody.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Ciao.